AECOM presents Strategy in Transit, a thought leadership series, where we can learn and talk about the greatest mobility challenges and the opportunities to help deliver a better world.
I'm excited to be here today in Toronto with some fantastic leaders focused on the important topic of transportation decarbonization. So there really is a lot going on in Greater Toronto when it comes to decarbonization. But with your organizations having very clear climate adaptation and ESG goals, can you highlight how your transportation system is making the transition? Maybe we'll start with Metrolink, Stephanie.
Really our construction and our initiatives around growing our transit availability within the network, both with GO expansion and broadening out heavy rail, but also our subways and light rail projects. That's really the main part of how we are contributing to that modal shift and bringing people into make different choices with their transportation. But there's some other smaller but impactful things that we're doing as well as we build those facilities. A large majority of our facilities, we utilize some Canadian green building standards that are LEED certified, and that brings a significant amount of benefit to those facilities. Much more sustainable methods of construction, and also in the life cycle of those assets, so creating or reducing really the longer term footprint of those facilities in order to enable improved sustainability for those as well. We're also looking to expand into electric buses. Metrolinx leads and guides a transportation procurement initiative where we work with partner municipalities across Ontario to do bulk purchasing of electronic buses as well. And that really brings the ability for maybe some smaller regions and smaller transit agencies to take benefit of similar sustainable initiatives that Metrolinx can champion.
It's that procurement model where it's more of a regional approach around that EV bus, and that great collaboration really across the region to progress on EV buses and also just the whole decarb.
Absolutely. I think having those joint objectives and joint opportunities to leverage buying power and leverage our partners to take advantage of the collective is absolutely critical.
And so looking at the airport, Stephanie talked a little bit about facilities and that asset side of the house, which we sometimes don't think about. So can you tell us a little bit about the GTAA and that element?
Yeah, absolutely. The airport really is a small city when you think about it. There's roughly about 50,000 folks that work there every day. We have at our peak just before the pandemic, and we're getting back to that number, about 50 million passengers annually that pass through the airport. And there's a lot of facilities. The terminals are big and obvious, but there are about 20 or 30 major buildings, and then countless smaller facilities as well. So the facilities management piece is really important. The heating for facilities. Traditionally we've done that with natural gas boilers, and that represents about a third of our carbon footprint. So we are going to be moving next quite quickly into decarbonizing the heating for our facilities. Looking at heat pump technologies to do it, using electricity more efficiently than if it was just a straight electric boiler. And then within those facilities, the different demands between the air side, the secure side of the airport versus the public-facing side are quite unique as well. So we've got some very specialized equipment in our fleet for snow clearing. For instance, we have very specialized snow machines that have a plow, sweeper, blower all built into a single unit, and they run up the runway in tandem, so in 13 minutes it's clean again, right? So those are very unique heavy diesel machines that we're looking at different alternatives to address the carbon footprint for that type of machinery. Renewable diesel is one option. We're looking at emerging technologies with hydrogen to be able to fuel that. And on the ground side, the non-secure side, we actually do have our first hydrogen fill station under construction right now. And that is the first hydrogen fill station in Ontario that is capable of filling both heavy-duty trucks and light vehicles.
It's an amazing accomplishment, actually, really advancing it. So Felix, have you any thoughts on the transition?
I'm glad Stephanie brought up electric buses, because the ministry has also in recent years been focusing on electric vehicles. And in particular, what we have heard from the public is there's this anxiety around the lack of public charging infrastructure. People seem to have this perception that, what if I get stuck in the middle of nowhere because, there's no charging station. So we have, invested a lot of time, energy to develop programs to support the construction of public electric charging infrastructure, and in particular in rural and rural areas of the province, and also in smaller municipalities as well. And we believe that this will help, reduce that anxiety of that perception, and also encourage the uptake of electric vehicles as well.
It's that chicken and the egg sort of piece as a consumer, when you're making those decisions whether to purchase an electric vehicle. Sure. I think people do look to government to help support that choice, right?
Absolutely, and we think of it as a partnership as well with the industry, right? I think there are a lot of opportunities for partnerships. Municipalities also have a role to play as well. But again, it goes back to what I mentioned earlier: is the convenience, right? If people know that the infrastructure is there, readily available, right? It really will help encourage that shift in mindset.
So as your organization moves towards its decarbonization goals, can you tell us a bit about how you're reporting out on your data and sharing your data? So
we produce an annual sustainability report that's published on our website. We also try to push out information on our wins and successes on a continuous basis through social media. So we've got a presence on LinkedIn and Facebook, Twitter, etc.
I would just add, we work very closely with Metrolinx on reporting out our environmental objectives, right? So that data is publicly released, readily available. We also share information with our municipal partners and also with our federal partners as well. We believe that in sharing with the learnings that we're finding, whether it's through our electric fleet, whether it's through our emerging technologies research, we think that that is how we're able to make advances in terms of designing better programs, new ways of doing procurement and so forth. And then the last piece I would just add is that the province is also developing an electrification policy, and that is something that we're really, really excited about, and that will also be released publicly in the future.
And so Stephanie, when we look at sharing the data and Metrolinx and MTO publishing, that in effect is sharing your successes. It's an opportunity to be clear with the public and be transparent around the success. Let's see that as a real tool.
It absolutely is, and I think it's really important that we are leaders in that space and that we are sharing all of the good work that we're doing, and that we're bringing these new technologies to our systems, not just to let everyone know what we're doing and how we're succeeding in it, but also to get it into the conversation and maybe provide some leadership in that space for our supply chain, who we're relying on to do a lot of work with us as well. We have environmental and sustainability expectations on them as they do work with us and for us. And we really need to set the benchmark for where we're going. And part of that transparency in reporting is builds on that, really builds on that direction of our future.
So with all of these advancements, you have to balance the advancements and the progress that you're making against the customer interests and so on. So how at Metrolinx are you doing that?
Yeah, it's a challenge for us. We are constantly working to improve our services, upgrade our services, increase them, satisfy the existing demand in our network, which increases year over year, and balance that with growing for the future and building for the future. So it is a challenge that we have to keep that balance of building and not disrupting existing customers, trying to grow their confidence and their support, their ridership, but also making sure that we're set up to satisfy what we know is a ever-growing demand over the next number of decades. So it is a challenge. We work very closely internally, our capital projects and operations teams, to find that balance and make sure that when we are disrupting customers, we're doing so in a thoughtful, meaningful way. We always replace services, for example, when we have to take out some as well. And really, that's part of the balance of getting things done and getting our sustaining our customer confidence in us today, but also building for the future. So it is certainly a challenge, but one that we need to do, and we spend a lot of time communicating with our customers and with the public on why we're doing this and how we're building for the future, and how unfortunately the disruption today is needed to satisfy their needs and demands, and our collective needs and demands in the future.
Yeah, I think that's really, I think Metrolinx does that very well in terms of explaining the benefit in the long term, the pain that you might be experiencing today, but the benefit in the long term for better transit and, of course, around our decarb.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, particularly on the Go expansion side, we have a great benefit of being able to incrementally expand our network and our services to satisfy that, so people can see, we're disrupting, but there's a tangible station upgrade or something that benefits them today while we continue on and build the rest for the future.
Yeah. So customers are back at the airport. So you're balancing the advancement around decarb against those customers returning back to the air.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been a lot of years since there has been a major infrastructure expansion at the airport, and that's going to be changing before too long, and we're going to be coming up against some of the challenges Stephanie talked about with managing that infrastructure build out without disrupting passenger service. And it's a lot like trying to change the wheels on a car while you're still driving, right? So not an easy thing to do, but there are ways to stage the construction, and there are opportunities that come with it, in particular around climate change and bringing in greener infrastructure. It's much easier, much more cost-effective to do that when it's new infrastructure versus trying to retrofit existing. And in the long term, I think the passengers will ultimately see improved experience and improved services through greener and more efficient infrastructure. So I'm certainly looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I think the point is in both of your organizations, and Felix, I'll ask you to comment on this, but I think the stakeholders, this is the demand of the stakeholders for these improvements. Do you find that as an MTO?
Absolutely. I think, consulting with the public and having a good understanding of, what are the demands, what are the gaps, what are the needs is key to any successful policy development or program design. So we at the Ministry of Transportation spend a lot of time whenever we're developing new policy or developing a new funding program, that we go out there and talk to the end users, whether that is the public at large or specific stakeholders. And I think, being able to understand what are the needs and having a true sense of what's happening out there, in the world is really important for us in ensuring that we design policies and programs that meet the broader needs.